Okay, so this is the meeting of the Tuesday night chanting group on September 2nd, and we're going to have a discussion tonight on a topic to be determined. But before we talk, we'll first do the evening bell chant. Okay, so now the floor is open, wide open for a discussion. We spent a lot of time talking about last month we talked about Kwanzaa Bosal chanting. Prior to that, we'd been talking about what were we talking about? Were we talking about the Great Dharani for a long time? And we spent some time talking about the Heart Sutra. Uh, Anybody have a favorite chant? Anybody have a chant that they're curious about or puzzled about? Oh, Elizabeth.
Oh, well, for favorite right now, I like both. Maybe it's the two that you have. I don't think we've talked about the
Mm-hmm.
Uisang
Mm-hmm.
Song of Dharma Nature and also the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra. Both of
Okay.
those. Um,
Yeah, those are both interesting chants. The Uisang's Song of Dharma Nature is a little. The Zen Master Sung San didn't include that in his kind of. He talks about that chant in the book Compass of Zen. There's a chapter on it, in fact. Um, and it's very famous and important in Korean Buddhism. But for whatever reason, it wasn't one of the ones that he included in the chants that he encouraged all of the Dharma centers and all of his students to do. And I kind of picked it up and kind of put it into what we do on Tuesday nights here, just because of all the chants that he didn't include. That's probably the most. It is one that is done every day in Korean Buddhist temples, and many Korean Buddhist lay people practice it regularly, and Koreans are kind of very proud of it because it is a so like the Heart Sutra comes originally from China, the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, and uh, the Homage to the Three Jewels. Those are both kind of evolved over time in the Korean Buddhist tradition, but they have their origin in Chinese Buddhism. The Uisang Song of Dharma Nature is very specifically Korean. Although, like all the other chants that we do, it's actually chanted in Chinese, but it's considered to be uh, uh, a very condensed poetic summary of the Avantamsaka Sutra. Wait, why do you like? What do you like about that chant, Elizabeth? We Song of Dharma Nature.
I guess I like that it seems poetic and it
Mm-hmm.
talks about Dharma nature, and and it comes from the Avatamsaka Sutra. And
Mm-hmm.
I also think, isn't there some version of it where it's like a maze, like it's
Mm-hmm.
visually
Mm-hmm.
presented like a maze, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so I was just interested in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when We Song wrote it, he wrote it as a not just as a poem, but um, as a I don't know the best way to translate it into English. It's called a seal diagram or a mandala. So actually, the characters are written out as a mandala, that that you can actually follow along if you know it. And there are animations of it on YouTube. I can show one actually. Let's see, but which does make it kind of cool to watch. Why do people know what I'm talking about? The Fatima knows. Do you think it's cool? The animation of the mandala.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, I'm overreaching. I haven't seen that specific mandala for that
Oh,
particular
okay, okay.
chanting, but I'm familiar with the format of the mandala, and there's
Mm-hmm.
something. I think there's something very appeal. It's almost like subconscious, isn't it? There's something there which is quite connected, I suppose, but it's you can't really articulate it. The mandala is that quite well known form, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in I know this is kind of popular in Korean Buddhism. I don't know in the rest of East Asia. I don't think this is something the Koreans invented themselves, but arranging the characters like in the Heart Sutra or in the Great Dharani or any other relatively short verse, like you'll sometimes see diagrams where a mandala is, or not a mandala, where a mantra or a long dharani is written out as a spiral going in or out. All the characters written. I'm going to try to find the one song of Dharma Nature. Yeah, no, it's not going to show up. You have to search in order to find the one that I'm looking for on YouTube. You have to search for it in Korean, um, and my Korean isn't good enough to search for it. But fortunately, I have it. Oh yeah. see if this works. Yeah, this will do it. I'm going to share my screen now just to show this. If I can remember how to share the screen, let's see.
법성원 용무이상 제법 부동물례정
False
You're muted.
advertising. False
Oh, there you go.
advertising. Yeah, I think this one will do it. Okay, here we go. Now I will try to mute myself again, but now.
법성원 용무이상 제법 부동물례정 무명무상 철일체 증지소지비영용 진성심심극미묘 불수자성수연서 일중일체 다중일 일증일체 다증일 일미진중암시방 일체 진중여겨시 무량원겁치길염 일념즉시 무량겁 무세십세 오상적 인굴잠낭격별소 도발심시변정각생사열반상공화 이사명연 무분별 십불보현 대인경능이내인 삼매중 번출여의 부사의 우보익생만하고 중생수기득이 액시고 행자환본제 가식망상 필부등 우연선교 자격의 기가수분득자량 이다라니 무진보 장엄법계 실보전 공자실제 중도상 불의 부동경이불
So, and the one other nice thing about that video, and I'll when I post the recording of this class, I'll put a link to it in the description, or I can put the link in the chat too for this if anybody wants to grab it. But in that recording, Gumgang Sunim is her name. She does the chant 21 times. And each time it goes around the diagram, shows the pattern, which is kind of cool. And I don't have any idea what meaning to read into the pattern, that mandala shape. But I think that one doesn't have to have an intellectual understanding of it to appreciate it, and to be kind of, and to be it to some extent. It's a skillful means to just to draw our attention in. at least for me, having interesting diagrams and pretty pictures and beautiful chanting helps to keep my mind focused at least a little bit on the Dharma. That works for me. Yeah. And she's also has a lot of other. Her version of the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra is also quite good. That's another one that Elizabeth mentioned, the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra. It's there isn't much information available in English on Uisang's Song of Dharma Nature. And I've looked into it, and what is available is pretty dense and over my head, which is not surprising since it's a very condensed poetic summary of the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is the traditional story is that the Avatamsaka Sutra was the very first thing that the Buddha taught while still seated under the tree of enlightenment, and that it was a direct expression of the Buddha's enlightenment. It was not an attempt to make the Dharma accessible, which the rest of his life he spent using skillful means to make the Dharma accessible to people. But in the Avatamsaka Sutra, at least one interpretation of it is that was just the direct expression of the Dharma without any training wheels or anything else for the rest of us. But there's a lot of good stuff and there have been a lot of commentaries written on the Avatamsaka Sutra. And Thich Nhat Hanh, for all of his simplicity and directness and accessibility in his teaching is all derives from the Avatamsaka Sutra. Which is why he makes such a big deal about interbeing. Interbeing is his phrase, or his English phrase that he came up with to express the central teaching of the Avatamsaka Sutra, which goes beyond the idea that everything is simply connected to everything else. And then here I'm going way past my level of understanding, but the way that it's usually translated into English is interpenetration, meaning that not only is everything in the universe connected to everything else, but that within every particle of the universe, you can see the entirety of the universe from there. So that so sometimes that's referred to as interpenetration, whereas Thich Nhat Hanh preferred interbeing, that wherever you look in the universe, the entire universe is there already, or something like that. You should read Thich Nhat Hanh too. He explains it much better than I do.
I think maybe the you used to include, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember the woman's name who does this chanting for us.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you used to include, I think, her version of the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, if I'm not correct.
That's right. I did.
So one of the things I like best about the Uisang Song of Dharma Nature is her doing the chanting. Because I just like her style. And then the one you just played us with the graphics, again, a very interesting form of the drum and bell on this. I mean, the thing I find so fascinating about this chant is her rendition and her style. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. And if you go, let me, before I forget, let me post this in the, oh no, it's not there. Where did I find that? Oh, here it is. this is the link in the chat I'll put it in the chat. And then I'll of course everything, if you go to that link, it's all in Korean. But I'll show this page again just so you can see. Let me share my screen again.
I can't see anything in my chat, Kurt. Have you posted something yet?
I just did. It should be to everyone. Okay. Maybe it doesn't.
I'm on a very slow computer here, so it might be my end.
Maybe it hasn't made it all the way to Scotland yet.
Yes. We're a primitive nation. Oh, here we go. Got it.
I've heard that, but
Shh.
Let's see. So here, this is the video. Now let me find her name. Her name is. Oh, is it even in here? Should be here. So go, yeah. If you know you're Korean, this is Gumgang Sunim. Let's see. Can I make that bigger? Yeah. There, that's big. Gumgang Sunim. That's her name. Which and she's got let's see if I can make my screen go down again. Oh well, I can't. Okay. Once you know her name, I don't know how easy it is to find her other videos, but she's got lots of chanting videos. She's got, in
Are
addition
they
to,
all under that? Like the person who posted that, and there's a subscribe link. Are all her videos under that?
so there's at least
I think-
2 different collections of them on YouTube. That's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and in some of them they have a little bit of English every once in a while in one of the descriptions. But her version of the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra is really interesting because it's not exactly, it's slightly different from the version that Zen Master Sung San taught people. But she also recites the Great Dharani 3 times in her version of which is so traditionally when you do the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra, you always chant the Great Dharani at least once within the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra, but it's better to do it at least 3 times or 6 times or 21 times or 108 times if you've got all day. Actually, I don't think it would take all day to chant the Great Dharani 108 times, but it would take a while. Yeah. So have you ever done that, Tom, or anybody else ever done the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra and then chanted the Great Dharani multiple times?
No.
It's a good practice. And anyway, one of the things that we talked about, we did talk about the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra some when we talked about the Great Dharani, because they're very closely. I gotta move this hanging down here. Probably doesn't bother anybody else, but it's bothering me. But in the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra is based on the sutra that okay, it is based on the sutra that the Great Dharani comes from, and so parts of the Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra include things from that other sutra, which is usually just called the Great Dharani Sutra.
Yeah, another thing that I thought I remembered from.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of relatively new to these chants, so I think I'm still sort of building a little bit of a relationship with them, I suppose, where at the moment I'm just learning and sort of having an immediate response to a certain extent, but I think it will take time to sort of absorb them a little bit more and build up. It's like a work in practice, isn't it? Like a living relationship, just seeing how I work with them as well as, you know, sort of rather, because I think I'm a bit mindful as well of growing up in a religious background, having quite a sort of sense of, I was like feeling guilty if I'm not learning or doing stuff a certain way. So I'm trying to be quite organic in the way I'm sort of emotionally engaging with the chants.
Yeah, that sounds good. Did you say that you have a religious background and so you're dealing with that, or I didn't quite catch what you were saying about relating to the chants in a religious way.
I think it's because they're quite new to me. I'm
Uh-huh.
trying to be very
Mm-hmm.
open-minded in the way I'm engaging with them, because I think maybe before, like growing up in a religious background, there's very much feels that pressure to sort of have, you have to do this chant a
Oh,
certain
right.
number of times, and if, you know, and then the language of sort
Yeah.
of guilt and sin comes into there, and it's quite, that can be quite,
Mm-hmm.
that never sort of leaves you that attitude to a certain extent. So
Mm-hmm.
I think with these chants, I suppose I originally learned the Heart Sutra was my first
Mm-hmm.
sort of introduction, and with these I'm sort of just playing with them, I suppose, in more of an organic way for now. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I'm slightly annoyed actually, because I lost my phone because I've been so busy over the last year, and I had all of them downloaded onto there. So, and obviously wasn't intelligent enough to back them up, so I have to redo my recordings.
Yeah. And they're very good to play with, and it's ultimately any of our practice that we do, um, it has to flow from our own. The direction has to come from within ourselves, each of us, because you can't. I mean, even though it's great to have teachers and to read books and to be part of a sangha and go to retreats and but the thing is that if you do that, and you ask teachers what should I do or whatever, they'll give you lots of things to do. Some will, others will just say, "Oh, yes, what a wonderful question. What should you do?" In fact, so that was there was a famous Hindu teacher, I think I'm getting the name right, Ramakrishna, who was not who was like that. He would never give his students specific instructions on how to practice. But people loved him. People loved his teaching, and people loved him because of his complete unattachment to form and ritual and everything like that. But then one of my favorite Hindu authors, Tegak is close to that. Yes, he is. Yeah. One of my favorite Hindu authors was a student of I think it was Ramakrishna for a long time, but finally he got frustrated and went and became a student of Sri Aurobindo, who was happy to tell him what to do. And the thing is that even if a teacher tells you what to do, it's still up to you to make it your own practice. And if a teacher doesn't tell you what to do, it's still up to you to make it your own practice, I would say. Yeah. But playing around with the chants is a great thing to do. And finding chants or any kind of practice that really attracts you, that you like and that you enjoy. Is all practice isn't necessarily enjoyable. Um, but it's hard for me to do any practice that I don't actually enjoy. To be honest, I find that I need to. I'm fortunate that I've been able to find practices, and I like chanting.
So
Elizabeth,
this is
yeah, Tom, yeah.
I was just saying, this is an interesting topic for me because
Mm-hmm.
fairly recently at Temple here, I gave a Dharma talk on essentially on upping your game as far as
Mm-hmm.
your personal practice, you know. Uh, and one of my central points in this was you're going to tend to practice more if you like the practice, you know, if you, and I think that equates to what you just said about it has to come from within. So if it comes from within, I think you're going to enjoy it more. You're going to practice more. The other thing I wanted to comment on was inside the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra. There is a chant that I know as a kind of a standalone, independent chant that we first did at Furnace Mountain, and it's. But when I asked Dagak about this chant, he said, "Well, it's kind of," and the chant is Om Nam,
Oh
very
yeah.
simple,
Mm-hmm.
very easy, but I
Mm-hmm.
love that chant, and I love the way it was done at Furnace Mountain because people would uh, do put on harmonies and then stagger you know when people started to chant Om, some people would wait and delay and then come in a little bit late or a little bit premature,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave it a really interesting um, presentation or form. You know, I really enjoyed that. And when I asked Gak about it, he said, "Well, it's kind of like his definition was it's like a universal stain remover, you know." And I like that. I see inside the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, I know I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it's referred to as purifying and maybe I don't even remember more than it was a purification of I don't know, Buddha fields? I don't
The
remember exactly
Dharma
what it was.
realm. The Dharma realm.
Purifying the Dharma realm. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And then that's a mantra where the title of the mantra is significantly longer than the mantra itself. So let me see, how does it go I can't remember off the top of my head, but um, it's the mantra that purifies the Dharma realm. Om Nam. And there's actually, well, I try to look up the history of that chant. There is, I found some Sanskrit versions of it, but now I can't remember what they were. I might be remembering this wrong, but actually, in some versions, or some people speculate that the original Sanskrit version of that was Om Ram, Ram being one of the names of God or the deity in Hinduism. Oh, but speaking of names, so one chanting subject that's close to my heart is the different Buddhist practices of just chanting the names of different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So when in our usual Tuesday night schedule, other than the first Tuesday night when we talk about chanting, on the other Tuesday nights we do the Yaksa Yore Bol chanting, which is the name of the medicine Buddha, and we also do Jijang Bosal chanting, which is the name of the Korean name of Chitigarbha. And those are, and then last month in our discussion, we talked about Kwanseum Bosal chanting. And so these are just different instances of a particular kind of chanting that's extremely popular in, well, and it isn't just in Korean Buddhism, but in general in East Asian Buddhism, where people just chant the name of a Buddha or Bodhisattva, the most well-known form of that is when people chant the name of Amitabha, and so many people. Anyway, yeah. So, but Amitabha is just one example, and so in there are sutras that are associated with Amitabha, the Buddha of the Western Pure Land, and in those sutras it says it encourages this practice of chanting the name of Amitabha. In the Lotus Sutra, there's a chapter devoted to Avalokiteshvara, and in that chapter it says you should chant the name of Avalokiteshvara, or more specifically, Quan Shiyan or Quan Seum Bosal or Kanzeon. And then in the Medicine Buddha Sutra, it's recommended that you chant the name of the Medicine Buddha. And in the Kshitigarbha Sutra, it's recommended that you chant the name of Jijang Bosal. That's Kshitigarbha is the Sanskrit version of Jijang Bosal. So let's see. Okay. And so this is just a general kind of practice that people do. And when Zen Master Sung San taught this kind of practice, he emphasized Kwanseum Bosal chanting, both because that's extremely popular in Korea, and because people like it. I don't know. I never talked to Zen Master Sung San about this, and I actually had very little direct interaction with him. I don't know if anybody ever asked him, why do you emphasize Kwanseum Bosal chanting? I'm not sure if you get a straight answer from him if you had asked him that, but basically people like Kwanseum Bosal chanting, Kwanseum Bosal. I mean, what's not to like? But people also like Namu Amitabha chanting, Namu Amitabha, but with the same tune, Namu Amitabha, Namu Amitabha, Namu Amitabha, Namu Amitabha. And actually, a friend of mine, a Korean friend of mine, Yunki, and you know Yunki, Elizabeth. I don't know if any of the rest of you have had the pleasure of, but Yunki said that Korean Buddhists are they're kind of greedy because they chant to Kwanseum Bosal and Amida Buddha, both. But actually, the Korean Buddhists chant to, and Zen Master Sung San did encourage people to chant Yaksa Yorebo when they were sick. He never included that in his recommendations for group practice. But if you read through his letters, he makes references to chanting Yaksa Yorebo, which is, and everybody gets sick. So Jijang Bosal chanting was not what Zen Master Sung San recommended for regular group practice, except for when someone has died. And then people in a group say we will do Jijang Bosal chanting for, and the usual thing that's done is that people will chant Jijang Bosal for a particular person for 49 days after they've died, which is the usual time that's imagined that people spend in the difficult passage from one lifetime to the next, which is why and Jijang, one of Jijang Bosal's many jobs is to help people during that transition period. And so you call on Jijang Bosal to help your friend or loved one or whoever has died. And in our Saturday morning group, we always would, our regular practice was to chant Kwanzaa Bosal chanting, except for when someone had died. And people die all, I shouldn't laugh, but people die all the time, right? It's and so when we made a recording of our group chants, it happened to be one of the times when we were chanting Jijang Bosal, because someone had died. I don't remember who it was. It's been many years back. And so and now in our Saturday group, now that we're our Saturday group is on Zoom. We do our chanting along with the recording. The recording that we have is of Jijang Bosal chanting. So that's become kind of our in fact, someone in the group asked me, why do you do Jijang Bosal chanting instead of Kwanzaa Bosal chanting? And I said, because that's what we were doing when we did the recording. Yeah.
I know the
Yeah.
tune is the same, but
Yes.
is the
Mhm.
is the rapper the same? I know with Jijang
Yeah.
Bos or with Konsai Bosal chanting, there's like this introduction, and
Yeah.
then there's a couple jin-ons that wrap around it.
Yeah.
Um,
So the wrapper is actually not. It's almost the same. It's so close to being the same that sometimes people get confused, and so you will actually you can find chanting books that have been put out that that just have exactly the same format for Jijang Bosal chanting as Kwanzaa Bosal chanting, which is technically not correct. And there's one place where it really doesn't make sense, because in the so when you do Kwanzaa Bosal chanting, it begins with taking refuge or paying homage to the three jewels. It's Namu, Namu Bolta Bujung Guangnim Bope, Namu Dhamma Bujung Guangnim Bope, Namu Sunga Bujung Guangnim Bope, which means we pay homage to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and their attendants who are present with us at our Dharma assembly. Okay, and then and so that you can do that as a chant by itself. In fact, that's a beautiful practice if you ever want to, do a quick and easy mantra practice. Remember how to say the homage to the three jewels in that kind of quick format. But the fourth line is right out of the Lotus Sutra, and is specifically out of the chapter of the Lotus Sutra devoted to Avalokiteshvara. And so it really isn't appropriate to use that, and that's one where you go bo. Let's see, bo. Now I can't remember it, but Boman is the first two words, first two syllables, and that refers to the Universal Gateway, which the short title for the 25th chapter of the Lotus Sutra is Boman, the Universal Gateway chapter, and that's a name of Kwanzaa Bosal. That's one of her names, and so in Jijang Bosal chanting, we use a series of names of Jijang Bosal is the opening of the Jijang Bosal chanting, and those are all specific names that are associated with Jijang Bosal. Although some of those names can be used for other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as well. In fact, one of the one of the names, I can't remember the Sino-Korean, but the translation is Lord of Transformation. And actually, Lord of Transformation is a traditional title given to Buddhas. But in Kwanzaa Bosal chanting, on the last line, I'm going to look it up now, just so I want to go. Oh, yeah, we got time. If you ever need to find any of these chants, you can just do a Google search on the Quan chanting book and go right to the Quan School of Zen's. Even though I have a million PDFs and Word files around with all these chants in them, I usually can't find them. And now I'm looking at it here. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Okay, here I am at the Quantum School of Zen's website, looking at their chanting book. We're going to look for Kwanzaa Bosal chanting. Keto chanting, Thousand Hands and Eye Sutra. And Kwanzaa Bosal chanting. Okay, so these are the first 3 lines that I talked about before. Namu Bulta Bujang Guang Nimbope, Namu Dalma Bujang Guang Nimbope, Namu Sunga Bujang Guang Nimbope. And then this 4th line is Namu again, Bomun, which means Universal Gateway, Shihon, which means emanation, or emanation is probably the best. It's the Bomun Shihon specifically refers to the form of Avalokiteshvara in the 25th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. Woyo Kongshim means something like whose vows are very deep and wide. I think whose great vows are very deep and wide. And then Deja Debi is another name for Avalokiteshvara. It's also another name for Amitabha. Actually in the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, Amitabha is referred to twice as Deja Debi. And then anyway, so this is different. If you scroll down further in the chanting book to Jijang Bosal chanting, so since all the other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have a chant, there's even a chant for Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha, right? He's got a chant. Here we go. All right, so the first 3 lines of Jijang Bosal chanting start with Namu, which means homage to, or I bow to, literally is what it means, I bow to. Nambang Huaju is Lord of Transformation. And so Nambang is southern direction. So Jijang Bosal is associated with this, for whatever. Well, actually, there is a reason, because we live in the southern direction. In Buddhist cosmology, we are in the southern direction. And so various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have directions that are associated with them. So like Amitabha is somewhere out to the west. And I think Akshobhya and Medicine Buddha are somewhere out to the east, and there are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas associated with the north and the south and whatever. But here in Jijang Bosal chanting, the southern direction basically means here, because if you drew a map of Buddhist cosmology, where we are in the southern part of Jambudvipa. Anyway, so and this refers to the fact that Jijang Bosal is very much associated with our particular realm of suffering. Yumyong Goju, I don't remember what that means. Day 1 Bonjon. Day 1 is great vows. Bonjon is original teacher. Jijang Bosal. And then this line just repeats these names again. Namu, Nambang, Huaju, Yumyong, Goju, Day 1, Bonjon. These are just from up here. So this opening, and so Stephen asked about the wrapper, right? That's what we're talking about here. This is the wrapper. The rest of it after that is almost the same, except that the very first mantra that's recited in both Kwanzaa Bosal chanting and Jijang Bosal chanting is a special mantra for overcoming difficult karma. And it turns out that Jijang Bosal has his own special mantra for overcoming difficult karma, whereas Kwanzaa Bosal has a different mantra for overcoming difficult karma. So this is Myor Opchang Darani, And this is actually called a dharani, dharani. Om Badamani Dani Sabaha, Om Badamani Dani Sabaha. Whereas after you're done, oh, that's Sogamuni Mo. After you're done chanting Kwanzaa Bosal, however many times, the very first mantra is different. This is Om Mararuge Sabaha, which is Kwanzaa Bosal's mantra for, and then the rest of them are the same after that. There's one Song Tui Jinon, which is the mantra for, actually, so one of the ways of interpreting this mantra is this is the mantra for getting what you want. But as a bodhisattva, what you're supposed to want, of course, is to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, right? Om Amoka Sabadada Sadaya Shibi Om. And then this is the mantra for overcoming disasters, the Bulso Soje Gilsang Darani. And then the mantra for, goes on. Bogo Jinon, this is the mantra for fixing mistakes. And then Boho Yang Jinon is the mantra for dedicating, sharing the merit of your practice with all beings. And then the very end is this, yeah, this is almost the very last line in the Avatamsaka Sutra. It's like the second to last verse in the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is just praising the wondrous virtues and merits of Shakyamuni Buddha.
Ask a quick question about just the very beginning.
Yeah.
When I've heard recordings from Furnace Mountain, it's like they don't say the hey. It's just Guangnim Bo. And it's I don't know if they're slurring it or what, but other times I feel like I've even found, maybe from you, links to like maybe like the very fine chanter we just heard earlier. It's very clearly pronounced, the Bo Hey, rather than just Bop, or with a very quiet hey, or silent hey at the end. It's such a subtle little thing, but it's like I notice it. I'm like, wait, does this have two syllables or one?
Yeah. So, it's I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question, but people do have this question. There was actually, we had a discussion about this at a teachers meeting at Furnace Mountain last October. Yeah. And I said that what I remembered from my impression was that the correct way to say it is to say it almost like you're not sure if you should pronounce it, but kind of quietly. Almost like you're not sure whether you're, but it's definitely.
Well, that's perfect, because I'm really not sure if I'm supposed to say.
Yeah. Guangnim Bo, and you're bowing anyway, so everybody's going down Bo Pei. But
it's like when you're in the floor, your face is in the floor.
Yeah.
Just like put that syllable down there.
And
on the down low.
Bo Pei, Bop means Dharma, He means assembly. And so it's good to note, this is Guangnim means bring your light. So this means we pay homage to the Buddha and actually this is usually translated as all the Buddhas, Bulta, Bujung, and their attendants who bring their light to our Dharma assembly. So yeah, it's a good question.
That was one of the key questions actually I was bringing tonight. Like, do I say the hey or not? What is up with this word?
And so the real correct answer is do whatever everybody else is doing. So if you're chanting it on your own, I would say go ahead and say the hey. I would say the hey, because it's good to know what actually each of these syllables means. They do have meaning, and so it's a lot to learn and to know and to carry around in your head, but it's good to know that it's there and to say it. But when you're chanting with other people, just do whatever everybody else is doing. If you're at Furnace Mountain and people aren't saying hey, don't you just chant whatever everybody else is chanting and don't correct people who are doing it differently from what you think they should be doing. There,
Thank you.
yeah. Oh, and also usually, I tend to not do this, but the tradition is a tradition, or what I've always heard is people use a very elaborate tune for this part of the, and it takes if you do this, if you do these three lines using the elaborate tune that is usually used, it can take a full 2 minutes to get through these three lines. Namu Bhutabu, etc., etc. And which can be very when you have a group of people who know the tune and some of the people have nice voices, then it can be quite beautiful. It can also be a little too much and a little too intimidating, and it can sound maybe too overly religious or whatever. I don't know, and it can be unnecessarily complicated, in my opinion. But I love it. I love the sound of it.
I mean, it's like Om Nam in the sense, sometimes because it's the way sometimes it's chanted, at least when I've heard it at Furnace Mountain, like they really stretch out each syllable. And you're like, surely the syllable is going to end, but nope,
Right.
just a little bit longer.
Hmm.
But that requires everybody to be like taking breaths at different time because you're like, I can't get to
Yeah.
the end of
Yeah.
this. And so, but because people are taking breaths at different times, it just like, I don't know, there's a fluidity to it, like the Om Nam experience. That's
Hmm.
quite actually beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The opposite of slow, my last question for today
Hmm.
anyway, is do you speed up on Kanzeon or do you just do it consistent? Is
Oh,
it like 3 medium, 3 fast, and 3 super fast? Or is it just sort of, do you keep it steady?
so the way that I've always done it is three medium, three faster, and three even faster.
And do you
Now,
shout on the last three where people are just like, yo,
oh,
boo, like,
yeah, that's Dagok style. Yeah,
oh, that's
he
it. See, I don't know, like, okay, because
as
like
far
the
as I
really,
know, yeah, yeah. So some people get into get into Kanseon chanting.
Kanzeon.
It's very rhythmic. It's very uh, yeah. People get into it, and people get into it in different ways. Yeah, but the what I've always done is three. So you can do it as many times as you want when you're doing it on your own. You can use it as a mantra in your sitting practice. Many people in Japanese Buddhism and some Japanese Buddhist groups do it 108 chant Kanzeon 108 times at New Year's and time it so that the 108th one comes right at the stroke of midnight. And I once led a group doing that, and I didn't do it fast enough at first, and so we had to go really fast at the end to end it right at midnight. I think Elizabeth, were you there in my house when we had the Kashin Zendo came over to our house? Okay, 'cause the Kashin Zendo, which is a a, a, a Japanese group that meets in Chevy Chase, I think. One year they weren't able to host it, and so um, our group volunteered to host it, and they all came over. And I almost messed up, but I managed to get it in right at midnight. Okay, Stephen, we're
Thank
going to
you.
wrap it up very
Uh,
soon, but see ya.
okay,
Nice to see you.
thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
So while we're here, just one thing. Um, next month, I don't know what we'll talk about next month. I can, I'm really interested in different types in these different chants that are basically all just variations on the theme of repeating the name of a Buddha or Bodhisattva, and the slight differences that there are in them, and the different names that are used. I really like that type of chanting. So if no one else comes up with another idea, or we could try to talk more about the Uisang Song of Dharma Nature, and there's always more to say about the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra.
I was interested in the
Yeah, I did find that very interesting, just bringing that aspect of the structure of the chants in today, because it's not really an angle I've thought about before. So it's kind of that sort of flagged something for me. So yeah, that'd be very interesting, I think.
And I think the Thousand Hands and Eyes is interesting in that you're talking about where the same name is repeated, and in the Thousand Hands and Eyes, there's like all these different names
Oh yes.
of Kwanseum. I mean, it's really cool. I can see how the advantage of the one where it's repeating the same name is that you can remember it better. But it is really neat, all those different names that are in the Thousand Hands and Eyes one. So maybe eventually that's like a super advanced chant, because it's really hard to remember it. I don't think I could ever remember that one, but maybe I'll try sometime.
And then the other thing I just wanted to plug the sutra recitation group that's meeting on Saturday this week on September 6th, and we will be reading the Medicine Buddha Sutra as always, and also reading the a sutra that I learned about by reading Thich Nhat Hanh's commentary on the Diamond Sutra, where he just kind of offhand in a little footnote says, "Oh well, if you want to know more about this particular subject, which is like consciousness," says, "Oh, but if you want to know more about consciousness, then read this sutra that's called The Elucidation of Consciousness, which is really about what happens to consciousness when the body dies. That's the main theme. Although so what happens to the consciousness when the body dies requires talking about what consciousness is, and so that's the sutra that we'll be reading along with the Medicine Buddha Sutra later this week on Saturday, September 6th, from 3 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so it's 8:05, and so we can end with the 4 vows as we usually do. I like to put it up on the screen just because sometimes people ask, why do we use this version of the 4 vows? And the answer is because we never changed. Other groups have changed the version that they're using, but this is the one that we were using 15, 20 years ago. Okay. All right. The 4 great vows. Sentient beings are numberless, we vow to save them all. Delusions are endless, we vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite, we vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable, we vow to attain it. May whatever excellent qualities we have gained from this practice be extended for the benefit of all beings. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really good discussion tonight.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.